Saying in Yiddish, man can reden zum Lamp. You can talk to the lamp, and then you get much better attention.
המשך סמך טס חף גימל באלול התופשן סמך טס HP ד'
Right, so we saw the Sherish Malchus was in Reish Elul Yada, but the Sherish Arishin is in Atzmas Ein Seif Mamish, and we saw the Proteus Yesh B'Zeh Gimel Madriges. We saw the Vush Geus, Kveid Malchus, V'Reimim Samalchus. The Vush Geus meaning the garment of pride, literally. Kveid Malchus is the glory or the honor, the word Koved, meaning glory or laudation, honor. Reimim is Malchus, the elevation and what you might call the exaltation of the Inyan of Malchus. And it's explained elsewhere, Shekol Zeh, that these three levels, even though the three proteistic, as we said, specific or more precise levels in Malchus, however, all of them are in Keser, and it's well known that Keser is the Ein Seif, how he's beyond the Inan Asfiras, or Mailami Asfiras, meaning that there Proteus Dikadargas in how Malchus is really betoich Shorshoi in the Shorosh Ha'atzmi of the Malchus Atzlamayla Mikol Asfiras, and in that itself we have three different levels or three different manners in which it reveals itself. And so we're now going to deal in some brief detail with those three levels. He says, the Levush Geus Uchin Hashem Sag Shebabina Shebekeser. The Inen HaGeus Uchin Hashem Sag Kemeshkosu Pamokim Acher. Now I gave out those, did you give them to people last night? I gave out those pieces of paper with the Shemas. Did you get it?
No.
Why didn't you give it to them?
I handed it out.
Huh?
I handed it out to whoever I saw.
What?
I handed it out to whoever I saw.
You don't know what?
I handed it out to whoever I saw there.
What, you didn't see these people? You didn't see Yitzchak?
He sits in a different part of the Zah.
Well, you go look for him.
Did anyone else not get? There's one missing then.
So you come and make another photocopy. Wasn't a big deal. I told you to give it around to everybody. So if he sits in another part of the cell, you walk over to him in another part of the cell. What's the big deal?
No, I didn't see him.
Huh?
I didn't see him. I would have given it to him if I had seen him.
All right. So we brought down there in that diagram, we brought down the four miluim of the Shem Havaya. Now, what does it mean by miluim? That the Shem Havaya Kipshute is Yud Kei Vav Kei. And a milui means that we write out each ois in a more full way. In other words, that each os in the Aleph Beit has got a way that it's actually spelt. You can, because each of the oases has a consonantal pronunciation. You say it in the form of a word, so that word can be written. For example, as you see in each one of them, the yud is the same, and the yud is yud vav dalet. When you say yud, that's what you're actually saying. That's the milui of the os yud. The milui is vav dalet. In other words, that yud is the actual numerical value of the Ois Kemoishu, which is 10, and then the Milui of the Ois is Vav Dalet, so that's also 10. So that means that the Milui altogether reaches the number of 20. And if we take the Milui Yuden, which is the first one, the Milui Yuden is the Madrega of Chochmah. So then you write the K, the two Ks of the Shem Havaya, you write them K Yud, and that can also be pronounced Hey, because Hey Metayud, you can say it Hey. And the Vav in the middle is, to write a Vav, usually you write a Vav with another Vav, because when you say Vav, you say it like that. But the fullest milui of a Vav is when there's another os in the middle to sort of fill out the pronunciation. So in all of them, except in the case of the one of Malchus, which is Shemban, you have another os in between the two Vavs to make you up a full pronunciation of the word Vav. And so in the case of Shem Ab, which is Chochmah, we fill that also with a Yud. In other words, Kil would be like Viv, but it's really another way of writing Vav, but you write with a Yud. So that means that you've got K, Vav, K, filled up with Yudin. And that makes altogether, together with the 20 of the Yud, that makes the number 72, iron base. And so the union of the iron base is connected precisely with the union of Chochmah. Now the reason it's connected with Chochmah, because like we said, the Chochmah is connected with the union of Koved. And the union of Koved is connected with Chochmah because it's brought down in the Sefer Yetzirah and also brought in many places in Siddur, that the Chochmah is divided into what we call Lamed Beis, Nesives, Lamed Beis, like pathways. There are 32 pathways in the union of Chochmah. And the word Koved is Begematria 32. So the union of Koved is indicative of Chochmah because Chochmah is connected with the union of 32, Lamed Beis, Nesives, Chochmah. However, the actual Shem Havaya, the actual Milui of the Shem Havaya, connected with the Lamed Beis Nesivas HaChochmah, is 72. It's iron base. Because it's the union of Yudin. Now why is Chochmah Milui HaYudin Davke? Because Yud is connected with Chochmah. This is one. The Os Yud is in Kol HaMekemis in Kabbalah, is indicative of the word, of the concept of Chochmah, being as it is an Akuda Bilvad, and that's how Chochmah appears in its appearance in the Nefesh in the form of an Akuda, and Lamaila also, the appearance of Chochmah from the Inyan of Keses, but that's an Akuda Bilvad. Therefore, Chochmah is connected with a Yud, and it's connected with Koved for the reason we just pointed out. So therefore the Shem Havaya, how it's full, literally, with Yudin, well, that makes a union which is connected with Chochmah. And its numerical value is 72. Then we have the union from the Shem Sag. Now the Shem Sag is slightly different in that the Milui is not the same, B'kol Inyonim. That the Milui of the Kayin is with Yud. However, the Milui of the Vav is with an Aleph. In other words, Vav is a more orthodox usage of the word Vav with an Aleph. And so altogether that adds up to 63. In other words, you take 9 off the Yud in the middle of the Vavim, and you get an Aleph, and that leads you to a Milui, which is a numerical value of 63. Now 63, the union from Shem Sag, that's connected with the union of Bina, and the reason why it's connected with Bina, we'll soon see in a second, but it's also connected with the union of Olam HaToyu. In other words, the Olam prior to Elam Atzilas, where there was a Shviras, a Kelim, but that's connected with the union of the Shem Sag. And in Spiros and in Proteus or Inyonim, that's connected with Bina. And that's why he says that the union of Geus is connected with the union of the Shem Sag. Fabulous, because if you take the Oisius Sag, which is 63, and you just reverse them, then you get the word gas. Now the word gas is indicative of something which is, how do you say it? Self-blown almost, full of the self. And that was the problem, Kaviyochel in Olam Toihu, albeit it was tremendously high madrigas and tremendously high gilui in Elikus, but it was all in the form of what's called Rotzoi, V'loi Shoy. And Rotzoi is ultimately what each Indian wants for its own self. As well known, the famous spear in the difference between Rotzoi, V'shoiv, Rotzoi is the going out and the wanting of the lower level to go up to the higher and completely lose its Matthias on very high madrigas in Rotzoi. But that's not the Rotzon of the Eibishter. The will of the Eibishter is that Dafka should be the returning Lamata, and that the Oirish should Dafka come down and be Mislavish in the Kelim and Nimshochim Alidea Kelim Lamata Mata. In Olam Atayu, the Oirish were Mistalik Mea Kelim. They occurred this split between the Oirish and the Kelim, and therefore there was a Yerida in the Kelim. Since they were left without Oirish, therefore they had a Yerida and eventually became the Shviras HaKelim, the Toihu. So therefore we see that even though it's a high Madrega, it's similar to the Shem Ab, but it doesn't completely have Yudin all the way through in the middle of the Vav. It's got a Aleph. What that indicates, the Inim for Aleph also indicates a certain, what you might call, importance of the self. And as well known, there's a famous discussion in the Zohar Kodesh as to why didn't the creation of the world, or why didn't the whole Chumash, and particularly the creation of the world, begin with an Aleph? Why does it begin with a base? And so the Zohar Kodesh says because the word Aleph can also be connected with the word Oro. It's the beginning of the word, not Bracha. Like we had in last week's Parsha, when I get to the Yud Aleph or Yud Beis Arudim over there in the Parsha, what it's brought down, the truth of the matter is that they began, the Levium first of all faced Har Grizim, and they said first of all B'brocha, and then they faced Har Evol, and they said B'oror. And nonetheless it's written in the Torah, the Inim from the Oror, not the Inim from the Brocha. But that's a whole bio, lama, a whole big Inim with Ne'atzmai. However, says the Zohar Kodesh that since the Ois Aleph can begin with the word Oror, then you can't start the Torah with that. You have to start it with a base which is a Loshen Brocha. It's the beginning of the word Brocha. It's true that the word base can begin other words as well, but it begins the word Brocha. Whenever we began the Torah with the word Brocha, or with the Os Brocha, in other words, the Os base. So you might say, well, the Matan Torah began with Anoichi, and Anoichi is a Aleph. So the answer given to that is that Ein Lachanami, after we already started off with a base, and we were Mamshik Brocha into the world, and then through that whole Indian there was the Gil of the Oves, and then the Gil Alakus Alidei Oves, and then there was the Moifsim, and the tremendous Gil Alakus Alidei Yitzias Mitzrayim. Well, then it's possible to begin with a Aleph. Then you can be Hoifech as a Aleph, that it should also be a Indian from Brocha. Of a Sokol Sof. And therefore it begins with the word Anoichi, with the Aleph there is indicatory of the Eibush to be Etzem. However, it's well known that the word Anoichi is also indicatory of a certain Kaviyochel, how do you call it, elevation of the self, compared to the word Ani. Ani means bittul, Anoichi means, here I am, as you might say, as it brought down, like how do you call him, Yaakov Avinu, that Yitzchak asked 2 years, and he said, Anoichi. I said, I am Esav, your son. So everybody asked, how could he say that? So it's brought down. Rashi is also Maramis to it. As brought down in the great training that the word Anoichi, being as it is indicatory of the what you might call the toikev of the self, and therefore it's like a separate word. It doesn't run together with the words that come after it. Therefore Yaakov said Anoichi, meaning I'm who I am. And then he said Esav happens to be your brother. That's an amazing touch in the Rishonim. If you say the word Ani, then the word Ani runs into the words which are coming after it. Because the Inyan from Ani is bottled with Tofil, Davke to the Inyan in which it is, but the word Ani indicates Inyan from Bittel Davke. Therefore,
why did it say Anochi Hashem Elokecha then?
that's what we've just been into. I just explained that somewhere. In Mamela Kunto is that the Inyan from Aleph, beginning as it does the Inyan from Anochi, is at Matan Torah, that's a Maila, as we just pointed out. However, it doesn't alter the fact that the word Aleph is connected with the Inyan Anochi, so there's a certain trace of what you might call Hagboah, like elevation of the entity in the word Aleph. So come to Islofise, that that's Matim with the word Gas, or Sag, with the hippoch of the Inyan of Sag, is Gas. Which means that the whole thing behind Toihu is why the Inyan from Toihu, as it were, literally broke. Because Toihu, despite its tremendously high madrega, it said that what we as high spirit, on a tremendously high level, what do we want? We want to go back to our source. We want to have to do with the Eibishter. We don't want this whole Inyan of going outwards and downwards and being Mizgalila Lamata. Yeah, therefore, that was the Inyan from Sag, but it was also an Inyan Shel Gas. It was, ultimately speaking, not the Emes HaKavona, and that's what brought to the Inyan of breakage, as it were, and ultimately brought a tremendous nafila. So that is the same concept of the word Geus. The word Geus is also an Inyan of Gaiva. It's placed on the basic root word for Gaiva. Geus is like an absolute noun from the word Gaiva. And so therefore, it's indicatory of this concept of the feeling of the self, as it were. So how does that come into Malchus? Because it's well known that the king, ultimately, the king has to have in himself a certain Inyan, but here we're going to see a fascinating diuk, he has to have in himself a certain Inyan of, he's got to be Tachlis HaGeus, he's got to be tremendously elevated and self-elevated, and he's got to promote his image in the eyes of the people in a way of elevation and tremendous, what you might call gadlus in the eyes of the people. And the more he has that, then the more he becomes powerful and matzliach as a ruler. So komt is that the Inyan from Geus is an essential part of the etzem practical rulership over a country. However, it's written that that's a lavush bilvad, a lavush Geus. So the king has to have that. He's got to have the Inyan from Gaiva of Geus, as it were. But it's got to be by him only a lavush. It's only something that he uses. But he has to be b'fnim the tatlis bittul v'ha Shiflet, and that's what we see by David HaMelech, that he uses all sorts of psukim which indicate how he was really botel shofel b'ei achmi, and he was a tachlis self-nullification v'chulu, but he was the most successful king. He had this tremendous Inyan of what you might call capturing the bittul of the people. What that's the Inyan from Geus. But that has to be dafkin and even from lavush. It has to be a lavush bilvad. But nonetheless, it's part of the Inyan of Malucha. So what sphere is more connected with the Inyan of the beginning, the feeling of the self, our Inyan of self-elevation, that is the sphere of Bina. Because when you're in Chokmah, then your botil, Chokmah is koyach. The whole Inyan of Chokmah is the beetle to the Elikus and the oyer in the understanding, not the Inyan of understanding, but it's just the first appearance of a divine dot or a divine nakuda which wakes you up and begins your relationship and your kesher with the Zah. Bina is where you already bring it into your power of grasp, and that's what we call hasoga alpi. So that's hasoga means that you reach out and grasp it, and that is shai dafki to the odom. And that's where his, as it were, to use an expression, his self and his yeshus come into play. And to a certain extent, you've got to have a trace of what you might call self-confidence and selfness in understanding. Because if you don't, then you'll never make it. You'll always say, well, I'm nothing, who am I can't, and with all of these lashonos. So you can't and you're nothing. You've got to have a certain something in the self in order to make it and to be masi. Therefore, Bina is connected with a very high Yin, because you begin to understand Elokus. It's bottled to Chokhmah. It's got Yudin in it as well as, just like Shemab, but it doesn't have all Yudin in the middle of the Vavin, where the Vavin begin to take things down more into what you might call reality. The Vavin is the Inif and Zoh in a more specific way. You got there Aleph. Well, Aleph is indicative, as we said, of the Teika for the self. Noichi begins with the Aleph, as we pointed out. Therefore, that inside Keser itself, in the Madrega of Keser being as it is, the great Mukubalin, Adin from Keser is one of the spheres, and I feel will say it's not one of the spheres, it's Mudal, Mishariya spheres, but it does have a certain hiskalus of all the other spheres within the Inif and Keser. And so, in other words, just like you've got Chokhmah Sheba Chokhmah, and you've got Bina Sheba Chokhmah, and Chesed Sheba Chokhmah, V'chulu Kol HaSpirit Sheba Chokhmah, similarly we have in Keser. And therefore we have Chokhmah Sheba Keser, and we have Bina Sheba Keser. So that Inim from Bina Sheba Keser is the emes, the Inim of Shem Tzag, because Keser has still got a shaykhus to Elamah, Anikudim Elamah to you, which is L'mayla Mi'atzilas. Therefore it's Shayach Dafki to Sag. However, it's Dafki connected with the Inim from Bina, with what you might call the Tuiki for the expression of the Malchus, how the king becomes a tremendous ruler, and almost you might call Metzius over the whole people, and albeit that's a lavush, or it's part of the game, as you might say. It's part of the essential necessity of the Inyan HaMalchus. Therefore it's connected with the Inyan from Shem Tzag. The Kovid Malchus, however, the Inyan from Kovid, who bechinas Shem Ab, the Chokhmah Sheba Keser. The Inyan from Kovid, the emes of glory of the king, the emes of splendor, comes from himself, as we pointed out. That comes from a much more elevated state, which is Chokhmah. And Chokhmah is Dafki the Inif and Yudin. The Inif and Yud, what Yud is indicatory of Bittul Koyach Ma. In other words, that the greatness of the king, Dafki, comes from his Bittul completely to Elokus. Like we find in reference to the king, that he's got to have those two extremities. On the one hand, he has to be absolutely botel, as it's mavur in the Pashtus Hamilah and Pashtus Shoftim, that he has to be completely devoted to the Eibishter and have the Sefer Torah with him the whole time, with the whole Richet, and he has to be botel gamay to Elokus. Mitzad Hasheni, that Dafki gives him the koyach that he can be malavish alavush of Geyus, which is a later stage in his actual appearance of the whole people. Avol be'etzem, his koved, meaning his glory and his splendor, as you might call it, they come from his emissary Bittul and his connection with the Eibishter, with that's the Inif and the Inyan HaChokhmah, how it is in the Shoresh of Keser, and that's the Inyan from Shem Ab, the Inyan of Bittul of the Yudin in the Shem Havaya. The Reimamus HaMalchus, or the Inyan from Reimamus, who beginners Keser Sheba Keser. The Inyan from Reimamus is another idea. The Inyan from Geyus, as we said, that's the Inyan of his Kaviochel, as we can use the expression, his Yeshus, legabi the people, his importance and his pomp and his pleasure, legabi the people. However, we pointed out the other night when we were talking about the Inyan of a Melech, the Melech is essentially, he's a tremendously elevated human being, mitzad his very essence, and he's ein arech elevated like all the other people, as we pointed out Barichas in the whole beer that we gave in the previous passage. And remember, there's a Inyan from Rima Masa Atzmi in the Melech, but that's not known to anybody. That's completely withdrawn And it's only the fact that that is the case and that is there, or that gives power into all these other activities, that they have a tremendous overtone, Gabi all the madregas, that we'll soon see in a second, that he affects all the Pulchinas, Bekola Medina Kulu, and Lamaila, that's how the Eibishter's Gilu Ha'achmi comes Lamata Mata, or Bekola Madregas Kulam. And that's the union of emisar elevation or laudation, which is not the union from Gaius, because Gaius is an immediate protestic gaiva, as you might say, lagabi the people, and it's only a lavush. But the union from Reimamus is not a lavush. The union from Reimamus is the etzem elevation, mitzad etzem atzmusai of the king. How he's be'emes ein arech lamayla mikol anoshim mikol inen sheba kol medina. But that union of elevation in the very etzem. And so the Rebbe says that's the union of Keser Sheba Keser. In other words, that's the level in Keser of Kaviyohu Keser, meaning Pnimius, the Atzmius of the Keser, not Keser how it's coil within itself, Chochma, Bina, or other spheres, or the Etzem Nakuda Atzmius of Keser itself. Ukeinian, he said, Roma Karni Bechinas Keren Chur. Now this is referring to the Shira that Hannah, you know the story of Hannah, how she gave birth to the Shmuel Hanovi with the whole Inyan, that she made her famous prayer in the Mishkan in Shiloh, and Eli HaKoyen, the beginning charged her as being a Shekoira, and then she said, she's not a Shekoira, and that's been the tremendous heartfeltness of her prayer, that she looks to be till like that, and then he gave her a blessing that she should have a child with all Arich, and then she had the child who was this. Now we read that on the first day, that's the Haftorah of Rosh that's the Haftorah of the first day of Rosh Hashanah, because the Gemara says, in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, all of that tremendous drama where she went to the Mishkan, she prayed with the whole Rigas, all that happened on the day of Rosh Hashanah. And that's what they'd been up into the Mishkan and so on. That had been in connection with the Indian from Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, we see from that the Indian, then at the end, after she died, Shmuel Novi, she said a song. She said what you might call a triumphant song, or a song of praise and thanksgiving to Hashem. And the first posik begins almost with those words that she says, Roma Karni Be'Hashem. Literally, my Karen has been elevated or thrown upwards due to the chesed which Hashem has given me, and He's given me a son. In other words, prior to that, I was cast down, and everybody looked at me as a bit of how would you call it, a cast down lady, a miskeno, as you might say. And now that I've had my son, and that He obviously given me this tremendous bracha, then Roma Karni, I've gone up into a completely opposite state, where I have, as it were, a union of Rimim is for Keren, Roma Karni. So the Rebbe says, Bechinas Keren. Now what does he mean by that? Because the union of the word Keren is indicatory of Keser. It's indicatory of a very high madrega, and we find that in many Jerusalem it says representing Keser. Now the reason for that is that a Keren is really something that has no Matthias, because a Keren means a edge or a corner. So if let's say we take this corner here, so all this side here, this side here is let's say north or something like that, let's say, north. And this side here will be east or something like that. So as long as you go along here, you're all north. So no matter how long you go that way, you're going only the north side. If you go this side, you're going only you're east. So the Keren doesn't exist. When the corner, if it's a pure corner, then if you come from this side, then you're only on the north. If you come from this side, you're only on the south. So the Keren doesn't really exist. There's no real thing which can be called a Keren, because it's either it's north or it's east.
There's a point where they both connect. There's that point where they both connect.
There's a point where they both connect, but that point doesn't exist. Point doesn't exist. In other words, there's nothing you can really point to and say that that is the point because it's not. If you look at it that way, it's north. If you look at it this way, it's east. So it doesn't have any existence. In other words, the actual point where they join is a inyan von ayin. Therefore, the word keren is indicative of the inyan a keser, because the inyan von keser is the immediate inyan von ayin. It has no metzias whatsoever. It has no metzias whatsoever, but it does have a metzias, but it doesn't. In other words, it's the inyan of a metzias, which is really oish and hefech inyan a metzias, and that's the inyan of a keren. And the same with the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach was also had coronates, and they had to be sharp as well now. That each side of the Mizbeach was whatever side it is, and the Keren of the Mizbeach is a inyan which is l'mayla mi-matzias. And therefore the inyan of Keser is that Madriga. Therefore she said Roma Karni. She said that I've come to the inyan through my beetle to there, my prayer, and so having given birth to Shmuel. As put over there in the Targum Yenis and Ben Ozil and another great Makoiris, that put that Shmuel was a Navi and that Hannah was also a Naviya. So therefore she gave birth to a person. He became, in his very early age, when he was already only about a year old, he already was saying things which were beget a Nevuah, that he was a Navi. Therefore the whole inyan comes from a Madrega where she was elevated into the Madrega of Keser, and that has to do with Rosh Hashanah, because that's the Elias HaMalchus into the inyan of Keser, and in that Gufa, Keser Shebe Keser, because it has absolutely no Matthias whatsoever. Mashik in the Madregas of the other spirits in Keser, even though they're also in a state of very high Madrega, but they have some small trace of a Matthias. Olafize. So, Imkain, that's like a summing up of the inyanim which we saw when we get to those miluim of the Shem Havaya.
In the corner, there's really nothing there. If it has no Metzias, what does the pasuk mean when it says you would like pour the blood on the carnes of the Mizbeach?
Yeah, no. What they used to do was they used to throw the blood. Well, first of all, the carnes of Mizbeach is referring to the chatois. There was a special thing that was built up from the keren, and the Kohen used to put it on there. He didn't used to put it actually on the actual keren. Well, there's another possibility when you get to our oil, you have to Yizreich is a dam saviv, ala mizbeach saviv. So on mizbeach saviv, they used to throw the dam on the lower keren near the what's called the chuta sikra. They used to throw on the points of the blood spread here and spread there, and so that's called saviv. Instead of throwing it all around the altar, you threw it on the keren, and mamila, it went here and it went there automatically, and that's called saviv. That's called it went round, but you have to throw it on the other side as well. And that means it went round the whole Mizbeach, which means that the keren itself really doesn't have any metzias. When you throw at the keren, you're throwing on two sides. We see then that those new numerical values of the Shem Havaya they're called miluim. Now you should remember that, because a milui means a fill-in, actually a fill-up, that's what it means from the word malot, which means that they are not the emser Shem Havaya in what you might call the purity of its oisius, yud ke vav ke, without any milui, but that's indicatory of the etzem Shem Havaya. Well, that's in a very high madrega afilo, in some ways, even l'mayla mea kesa, or al chaponim, it's in mamish pnimis akesa, or l'mayla mea asfiras lagamre, and that's the pshitas of the Shem Havaya and pshitas of the Ein say. The miluim always represent a slight yerida into something more specific. When you write a milui, you're putting other specific entities into the pshitas of the Shem Havaya. In other words, you fill it out. And that filling it out means that you're relating it to some inyan which mitzad it's very etem, and as well known according to the Kabbalah, the Shem Havaya is called the Shem Ha'etzem. It's the name Kaviocho of Hashem's etem. When Hashem wants to refer by name to his own essence, then he uses the word Shem Havaya. And the word Anoichi at the beginning of the Seres HaDibros is another inyan. There it means in that Gufa, much even higher inyan, that not a name. And therefore the Zohar Kodesh says that the word Anoichi is not a name. The word Anoichi just means Ich. And it means as it were the taker of the Ich, the self, I, in a very powerful way, as we pointed out before. But in names, where you use the Shem Yud Kei Vov Kei in its purity, then you're referring to the Etzem of the Shem Havaya. The Miluim represent Yeridas into more specific inyan. And therefore, even the way those Miluim occur within the inyan of Keser, they're the inyan of Keser, how nonetheless it's relating, and therefore we see that the inyan from Levush in Gez is already a low level of a certain Yerida for the sake of the people, to appear in front of the people, because COVID is a more direct reference to the Etzem, but nonetheless the Etzem has Shaykh to inyan specific yoter, which is the inyan of Chokmah, which is the beetle of also the greatness of the king. Keren and Keser, Shabbat the inyan for Reimamas, but that's the inyan of Atzmius HaKeser, or Pnimis HaKeser, but it's still underneath the Etzem Shemavaya Beli Milu. That's just basically the picture. And the Rebbe says, now it'd be very handy if we had a siddur. Does anybody ever a siddur? Because we're not going to deal in detail with all the Rishonos that occur in the. I meant to tell somebody before to bring a siddur down, and I forgot all about it. Yeah, that's also good. That's a matzah. Yeah, that's configurations, right? That's very good. We're going to see now in the Shemoneh Esrei of Rosh Hashanah, we're going to now touch a whole series of the expressions that occur in the Shemoneh Esrei on Rosh Hashanah. So what we'll do is we'll try and show you to them as we come to them, each one.
I have a matzah.
You have a matzah? Okay, very good. So then the Rebbe says like this. According to all that what we just said, Yesh Loima, we could suggest, Damasha Omrim, that what we say in Musaf, that what we say, Maloich al Ho'elam Kulei Bishvei Boidelcha. That's here in the Musaf.
There's a Musaf of Rosh Hashanah.
Does it begin? Let's find this one.
Rabbi?
Maybe it's in Musa. Anyway, it's one of the Lashatas. Have you got it then? Maleich al kol ha'olam kulei bichvei delcha.
What area is it?
V'heifa kol yesh v'tevel atzacha. I should have looked it up myself before I came down. Maleich al kol ha'olam kulei bichvei delcha. V'heifa so it must be in the Musaf. Must be in the Musaf. Filas Musaf. Where's Musaf for Rosh Hashanah?
Yeah, we have Musaf.
Shachar for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
And the whole Musaf is
where's the Musaf for Rosh Hashanah? So, I don't know, I can't figure this whole thing out.
Rabbi, that's Musaf of Rosh Hashanah.
I should have looked it up myself. Anyway, it's yeah, that's for sure.
Found it?
Here we go. It's in the Musaf. I thought it was in Shakshuf. It's in the Musaf. Elkeinu v'Elkei v'Seinu Moloich al kol ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. Everybody see that?
Oh,
Yeah. Moloich al kol ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. You must rule over the whole world in your covenant.
Can't really see it.
Hold it up to the camera.
Moloich al kol ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. I can't figure this one. I don't know where the heck it's all mixed up. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur together. And I don't know where the Musaf or Rosh Hashanah. Anyway, whatever. Oh, I see. There's two of them. This one's only for Yom Kippur. What are you doing? Give me Yom Kippur. It's only Yom Kippur. You guys are crazy.
Alright, hold it up to the camera.
So everybody got it? Molech al ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha. Now that's beginning of the final bracha in what we call Malchus. Did you learn in the Shulchan Aruch about you say the 10 psuchei Malchus and the 10 psuchei Zechreines and the 10 psuchim of the Shofar?
Talking about the shofar.
You didn't learn that yet in the Shulchan Aruch?
We're just,
In the classes with
just started about the three, the order of the Musaf.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and on Sunday he's going to go
So this statement occurs towards the end of the Malchus. And it's like the summing up at the end of the Malchus before we make the bracha at the end of the Malchus. And so we say, Malach al kol ha'oretz kulei b'chvei. So we want you to rule over the whole world in your koved. Got it? Now, so the Rebbe says that expression, Malach al ha'olam kulei b'chveidecha, hainu b'china shem ab. Since it mentions Davke the Inim from Kvoidecha, and we said that Kovid is the Inim from Chochma, and that Chochma in the Shem Havai is the Inim from Shem Ab, Pinus Chochma Sheba Keser, but we said we're talking about how these Madregas are within the Inim of Keser, Chochma Sheba Keser. It's at the beginning, it's the end of the Seder of Malchias in the Pilas Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. So therefore the Rebbe said we could say that that's the union of the Shem Ab of Chochma Sheba Keser. Kamesh Kosev b'Mochim Acher. It's written of Moshe Rabbeinu when he was on the mountain asking for forgiveness after the Chet HaEgel. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, Hareini noes Kvoi Decha. So in another place it's written that Kvoi Decha is indicatory of the Shem Ab Sheba Keser. And Moshe Rabbeinu asked that should be shown to him. Shazor B'chinas Chochmas Timor. In other words, why does he call it Chochmas Timor? Because according to the Kabbalah, Chochmas Timor is Chochma Sheba Keser. Because Chochmas Timor, hidden Chochma or concealed Chochma, and Chochma Iloa or Chochma Gluya is Chochma Hautin Elamah Tzilas. So the Inim from Chochma, how it's within Arichanpan, which is Keser, is called Chochma, but it's called Chochma Stimor. And since we're talking about these Inyonim, or these Miluim, or the Shem Havaya, how they are in the level of Keser, therefore, he said that's the Inyan of Chochma Stimor, because Chochma Stimor is Chochma, how it is in the level of Arich, which is Keser. And therefore that's the Inyan of the Shem Ab, how it is in Madregas HaKeser. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu, since he was asking for a tremendous gila on the part of the Eivishter. And he said to the Eivishter, please show me your Koved. He saw it was a moment of an Eis Ratzon, that the Eivishter was prepared to forgive the Yidden. So Moshe Rabbeinu, to use the expression, tried to chaparayim, to use the expression. He said, well, this is a moment, maybe I'll ask that I can be given great madregas, And therefore he asked that the Eibush should show him his koved, and of course the Eibush said, I can't show you everything, but I can only show you the Pechinas Achurayim, and the low level of it, and so on, and the whole with the Kesher Shel Tefillin, what Rashi brings over there in Parsha Kisiso. V'hinosei al ha'oretz bikorecha, and elevate yourself over the world with your glory, literally, also your glory, but your glory in the sense of your core is the idea of glory legabe people. Yeah? And like we saw, Feidelcha is more referring to the koved of the etzem, mitzad the greatness of the etzem. Yikor, for example, it's used a lot in the Megillah, that expression Yikor. That Achashverosh, when he was showing himself, and he showed Yikar to Ferret Gedulah, he was showing himself to all the people, and it's written later by the Yidden, La Yehudim Hoysa the Simcha, the Sosim Vikor. What the Inif in Yikor means that they had koved in the eyes of all the Goyim and all the people, and it's written that people wanted to become Yidden, all the Ritas Ainian over there. But that's the Inyan of Bikorecha. So therefore the next expression has it, yeah, V'hinosei al kol ha'oretz bikorecha, and elevate yourself. V'hinosei, elevate you and lift up yourself, yeah, al kol ha'oretz bikorecha. That follows along, yes it does. It's the next piece after the one we just learned. So, the word hinosei, yeah, that means to elevate yourself. But it's a relative type of elevation. I only elevate myself from something else. But when I said kfoidecha, I meant the koved of the etzem itself. Mashin hinosei means to elevate yourself over something else, and that's in and of your core, glory, legavi, something else. So therefore that's referring to the in and of Shem Sag Bina Shebakeser. And that makes good sense that the first one is talking about the koved of the etzem, and the second one is talking about the relationship of that koved to the subject, or to the makablim, but that's all the creation, so they are in the Olamas, and therefore it's called hinose. V'hoifa b'hadar goyen uzecha, yeah, and then it goes further, and it says, and you should appear hoifa b'hadar, with the glory of the goin uzecha. Now the word goin means elevation or lifted up in a very high sense. Goin uzecha al kol yeshvei tevel al tzecha, on all of the dwellers of the land of the world, which is your land. Tevel. The word tevel is a word for the world. There's several words in Lashon Kodesh for the world, and the word tevel is one of them. But tevel means a simple or more earthly way of referring to the world. When you say tevel, you mean the geographical map of the world, the whole world with all of its inyanim. So here we see that you have to, we beg the Eibush that he should appear b'hadar, with the glory, or literally the yofi of his ge'uin uzacha. Now, we say in the Shir Hayam every day, you say, u'bereiv ge'uincha, yeah, what's it? No, ta'arish komecha, bereiv ge'uincha, ta'arish komecha. So the Indian for ge'on, yeah, and it's written at the beginning, Ashir al Hashem ki go'oi go. Go'o is the same basic ut word, and there it's doubled, go'oi go. And the Targum, Onkelos writes over there, yeah, gavo al gavasana, that you're higher even than all the high ones. In other words, that you're tremendously elevated. So the Rebbe says that inim from Gaon, and therefore in the original usage of the word Gaon in Lashon Kodesh as referring to a Chacham Shabbat, he was referred to as a Gaon. That meant that he's tremendously elevated and withdrawn from everybody else in his greatness of knowledge. And therefore he was called a Gaon, which means he was literally Muvdo Mikol Shari HaChachomim. And therefore the great teachers after the Talmud are referred to as Geonim. And nowadays, unfortunately, they use the word God. Excuse me, very freely, for all, how they call it, medium sorts of people who happen to be important rabbis. They call them Goans. Everybody nowadays is a Goan. But the original usage of the word goin meant somebody completely moved on high, in a way of almost ein arich, legabi shari ha-chachom. So the same thing here, that when we say beroiv goin, I'm sorry, hoifa begoon uzecha, well, that means the Indian of reimamus atzmi, in the etzem reimamus of keser shebekeser. Therefore he said, Yehu abechina shel keser shebekeser. V'gam yesh loima, so pinus pnimius hakeser. So we should suggest that that's reisha deloyis, the other, in other words, the very essence and shorish of malchus itself. It's written in reference to the Shiras Hayam that was the Madriga that was Miskala then as a preparation for what was eventually going to be the Gilead Atzmus on Matan Toya. Therefore, that to be a preparationary Gilead, the Atzmus, Beroiv Ge'oincho. V'hainu, she'yeh Gilead b'chinas Malchus, k'moi shehu b'shor shehu mekoiro horishin, shezo b'chinas Reima Masama, Malucha. In other words, we saw that the shirish of the whole hatzlocha and the whole ability of the malucha to function, BMS, is from its shirish atzmi, mamashin atzmas, or in the remus amitius of the melech that we saw. And therefore, Davki, we ask on Rosh Hashanah that there be a gilui in the oilam, which came about through a ha'orah bilvad, of the gilui Shurish Amiti, and the Shurish Atzmi of Malchus, and that should be Miskala Beroiv Go'oin Uzecha, and the word Uz is also indicative of Toikefa Oiz power. So that was the Rebbe Gilui Al Kol Yesh Ve'Tevel Al such a gilui that if we'll go, first of all, we'll go through Chokmah and Bina, and then we'll reach eventually the Indian of Keser, and we'll be zeicher that come forth and will be Megala itself Lamata, then that will reach all the simple lowest madregas, afilu yeshvei, those who dwell in Tevel Alzelcha. And we pointed out that the word Tevel is a word indicating the simple oilam gashmik pshutei. B'chol madregas, in all the levels in the Eilam HaTachtoin, afilu b'madregas HaTachtoin, so that gilui the Gaon, meaning the Keser Sheba Keser, if that comes down, then it will reach into all the madregas afilu Tachtoin, as one on the famous cloud in Chassidus and Mavua, with L'Kutei Torah and Havim Mekemus in Chassidus, that the higher you go and the higher you bring into Gilui, then the more that has the ability to come down Lamata Mata. Kol HaGavoya B'Yoser Yored Lamata Mata B'Yoser. In other words, it's something which is Ein Arich, like we call HaMadregas, and it's completely moved out from all the Madregas. Mitzad, the Indian of Ein Arich is when it's mitgaleh, then it's just mitgaleh everywhere, because nothing has any erech legabi it, and therefore it's able to be in the lowest madregas with the same ability that it is to be in the higher madrega. In other words, that it's meya, as you might call, equally b'chol ha-madregas kula. And that's what he brings in the Basir Lagani, the Frierdiker Rebbe, that when the soive kol almina amiti is misgathered, then that's b'chol ha-madregas Shova ubechol oilam b'shova. That's what he brings over there. What that's a maima in Pasha Bamidbo beneged to Chag HaShavuos. It's got a keppel across the top of it, drush lechag HaShavuos. Yeah, beinen misacheches betevel altzoi. Now that's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim, referring to the Torah. That Kila, the Torah says to Hashem that or it says about itself that I will be by him, literally, or maybe the Abish is saying to the Torah that I will be, or it's like the Torah saying to the Abish, I'll be like a omen. A omen means like a child that nurtures from its mother. In other words, that I'll take from the Abish and I'll be like his child. He'll be so mishtashea with me and so misanig with me, I'll be so close to him that I'll be like his small baby, and misacheches betevel atzoi, and that will cause that I will be able to literally play throughout the whole world, that I will goyrem the tainug of Hashem, the Torah is saying that it will cause the tainug that Hashem has in it to spread out throughout the whole world. In other words, the inyan of Yeridas HaTorah Lamata in such a way that it will be able to reach all of the world and all the madregas ba'olam. And so the Rebbe teaches over there, the Alter Rebbe writes that Tevo begematria beis pomim ariyeh. That's an amazing thing, unusual thing. The Alter Rebbe says that the word Tevo has got the same madrega, the same gematria as twice the gematria of the word for a liar, ariyeh. So I just trust the Alter Rebbe. I didn't bother making the whole cheshbon, but if anybody wants to, he can make it. I'm sure it adds up. That if you take the numerical value of the word Ariyah and you double, you get the same value as the word table. And so what's that got to do with it? So he said, V'hein b'chinas pnei Ariyah de Srofim, u pnei Ariyah de Eifanim. Now it's written that in the Chayas HaMerkava that Yechezkel saw in his Nevuah, where he saw the Arba Chayas of the Merkava Elyoina, what the four of those Chayas are Pnei Nesher, Pnei Ariyeh, and Pnei Shor, and Pnei Odom. Right? He saw four virtual faces in the Merkava Elyoina. So it's brought down at the Pnei Ariyeh. Well, that's a shorish of all the, through the Malachim and through other inyanim of all the chayas and all the chayas which are not necessarily kosher chayas, all the chayas throughout the whole world. The Iladin from Pnei Shoyer is the shorish of the kosher chayas like the behemoths. And so what's got the passage of the divine influence through the Pnei Ariyah down into the world goes through the Malachim, what they are similar to it, and therefore they're called Chayas HaKodesh and Oifanim. Now this is a very interesting fact, that over there in L'Chutei Torah it's written differently than what's written here. Here the Rebbe says that the Pnei Ariyah Al-Shat to Srofim and Pnei Ariyah Al-Shat to Oifanim. And over there in L'Chutei Torah it's written Pnei Ariyah Al-Shat to Chayes HaKodesh. Listen, I'd like to get mind this whole rather gruesome business of playing with packages of toilet paper if it could be kept to an absolute minimum, okay? There was an Elter Chassid that he was once a Rosh HaKoil over here, but they have to be swept up afterwards. Yeah. And so that he was once a Rosh HaKoil over here in the Koil, and he wouldn't allow toilet paper anywhere where there was any Divrei Kedusha going on, because he claimed that since you keep it in that particular place, then you shouldn't have it around when you're talking Divrei Torah. That was a chumrah of his. So I don't want to become as strict as all that, because people do use it for handkerchiefs and for all sorts of other inyanim. But there's a limit, you know. That's they could. That is a group. Says here. Over there, the Alter Rebbe says that Pnei Ariyah is the shorish of the Chayas HaKodesh and the Oifanim. And here the Alter Rebbe uses the word. Here the Rebbe Rashav used the word Srofim and Oifanim. And I looked up in some of the Mekoides over there in L'Chutei Torah to see if somebody brings up, well, you know, how come this slight alteration in emphasis, but I didn't find yet any. But anyway, the Rebbe says here Srofim, over the Alter Rebbe teaches the whole thing over there in the Chayes and the Oifanim, not the Srofim, the Oifanim. And so it's one on the difference. The Srofim, they're in Elam HaBriyah, they're a much higher madrega in the Malachim, and the Chayes of the Oifanim are Shat Yitzirava Asiyah. And he teaches over there that he's talking about Yitzirava Asiyah. And here the Rebbe brings Tafki, the Malachim from Elam HaBriyah. What's it got to do with it? There's a Shem, the Alter Rebbe said over there, the Bechinas, Pnei Ariyah Sheba Merkava, which sends down the Shefa to all of the animals in the world, goes through these Malachim, which Kaviyochel are called animals. In other words, it goes through the Chayes HaKodesh, and then it goes through the Oifanim. Now the Oifanim is not a word for animals. Oifan means a wheel. Yeah, they call it a wheel, is called an Oifan. There are certain Malachim that they're so simple that just like wheels, you know, they just take everything and roll it further and give it over further downwards. They're not so much given to the union of understanding and a soga. So the Rebbe said, what has it got to do with us? The Ba'avaida, hu mishu, hu rak b'chinas chaydu'ala. What it means is they find him, particularly they indicate people that they serve the Eibishter with simplicity or with complete giving away of the self. They just admit everything. They don't look to understand and to really know. They just serve with absolute simplicity. What that's called a very low madrega in koiches hanefesh, but bepnimis it's a very elevated madrega because it's complete bittul of the self. However, in madregas it's a low madrega. He said that's what it means. The base pomimari afilu through the chayas into the efanim. What in Aveda that means even people that they're just like wheels that roll along. They just go around and they just accept and give themselves away to the Eivishter. But when it comes as a madrega like on Rosh Hashanah, and it's the yichud of Mal's mamish with the Eivishter, then it's misacheches b'teivel atzoi. It brings the taina with the Eivishter in the bria. Well, that's one of the kavanas of Rosh Hashanah, all the way down into the simple world, into the madrega haki taktoina. What in Aveda, that is the inyan of hoidua and simple giving away of the self. To the Eibishter, kasher meir b'chinas hamalchus, Moshe yi b'chinas ha'atzmas, yi agilui b'chol ha'madregas, afilu ha'yesa tach toinoi. He said, and that makes sense. That after when you come from the highest madrega, then you go down equally to all the madregas, even to the madrega haki taftoina, and everybody's makabel ayin atzmi. And to a certain extent, we might say those who are in Inif and Hoidah Bilvad, they are in a way more shaykh, and they have a more immediate childhood, despite the fact that it's misguided to everybody. And we'll maybe deal with that particular nuance in the coming class, and then we're going to touch out. So tomorrow it'll be good if people bring in. We've still got quite a few trainers in the Musaf we're going to touch out, so maybe bring in your Sidurim tomorrow, and we'll deal with them. Okay, so we're going to get people together tomorrow because we're running a bit late. And we hope that everybody get an early night and be up for these sleepers.
I'll see you up there.
So would somebody run and pass on the message around there to whoever it is around there? Play.